Hello, my name is Amanda Lopez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director for Campus Activities in the Office of Student Life and Leadership. For our next session, we're going to be talking about events and just sharing some basics for event planning when student orgs are hosting events on campus. So to start, event planning takes a lot of work, and we want to share kind of the 5 W's of event planning as you start to prepare for the upcoming year and as you start to prep for your event. So just some questions that you should be asking yourself, your team, your boards, your clubs, as you begin the event planning process. So to start is the who. So who are you hosting this event for? Is it open to just your club members, members only? Is it a specialized population? Are you trying to get this out to the campus community and open to everyone? What event is taking place? So what are the various elements of your event? Is it vendors, or you want to have music or entertainment? Is there going to be food? I know that's a big question. A lot of folks always ask, what are all of the things that you want to have for your event? Then the next one is when. So when is the event taking place? Is it date specific, or are you open to various dates? Some folks, maybe it's a holiday or around a certain holiday, so the specific date is fixed, but the time may be flexible or the location may be flexible. Or maybe sometimes, Wednesday evenings work the best for your club, and so it has to be on a Wednesday, but the specific date may be a little bit more flexible. So where are you hoping? Is it indoor more productive for your event? Is an outdoor space more reasonable for your event? What type of space, makes the most sense for which event you're hosting? And then lastly, but honestly, probably one of the most important things is why. What is the purpose? What's the intent? What are you hoping to achieve with hosting this event? Event planning takes a lot of time and effort, and you want to make sure that students and club members and everyone who is attending and putting in the work is really getting the most out of it, and that you are meeting those goals and doing what you can to make sure your event makes the most sense and really has the most impact, especially because they do take so much work. So the reason all these are really important to ask yourselves and ask each other before you kind of really hop into the event planning process is because all of this should be included in your event submission. When you want to request space on campus, you will submit that on Titan Link. And some other things, kind of just as you continue this brainstorming and thoughts, some other kind of event design and logistics that you want to ask, these are questions that you want to ask yourself and ask each other, is think about a budget. How much money does your club have to spend on these certain events? Think about booking fees, etc. Where is it coming from? Are you having vendors, and is there a fee associated with that? Are you paying for food or for desserts or things like that? Is it a fundraising event, or how is the money managed? My one big recommendation is to create a planning committee if possible, especially for those larger scale events. The larger your event is, the more support that you're going to need. So make sure it's to scale and you're getting the support and investment from your org. So often I see people, going through the event process, and it's one person who just has this really grand idea, and it's really cool, and we want to help and support you bring those things to our campus. But, some of that does take a lot of work. So you want to make sure that your club is as invested as you are in hosting these events. So discuss those logistics with your board, create that planning committee, make sure that it is to the scale, both, for the money that you have, but also the people support and how many folks are able to kind of give and have that capacity for that event. And then once you kind of do the big event planning, you're starting to kind of bring things together, you want to make sure that you are putting a good amount of marketing into your event. So once it's approved, once we're there, here's just a couple resources and recommendations on how to make sure your event is marketed successfully. And so of course, social media is really big for folks, and making sure that you're getting and promoting those events on social media, whether it's your Instagram, making TikTok videos, whatever that works for you all. But you can also reserve space on Titan Walk and promote your event on Titan Walk, and make sure to do that event request during Titan Link as well. You can kind of weeks up to your event start promoting, getting folks excited for your event. You can create a news article on Titan Link. You can invite members or folks through Titan Link as well. And then one other thing that is a nice add that we added last year is ASI has allowed us to approve promotion of events and marketing events in the food courts in the TSU. So Student Life and Leadership manages that process, but ultimately they've kind of allowed us that space. So for any event that's approved, an approved event on campus, and it has to be held on campus and open to all students, you can promote that event online or on those TVs for the week before your event. So that's a QR code, but also just we have it on Titan Link for you to submit that form so that you can do the food court digital display. So when you think about where do you want to host your events, we have a handful of reservable spaces. So if it's something that makes sense in a classroom, these are both the classrooms and the outdoor spaces. These are specifically spaces that are managed by Student Life and Leadership. So I'll kind of share how they're all managed. And although for classrooms, the final approval does come from scheduling, we help facilitate that process. So we do have general use classrooms that scheduling allows us to have for you all to have meetings in there or other like speaker events and things like that. So we do have classrooms in the listed buildings, but then also our office manages all the outdoor spaces. So all those venues, and the lawns and the quads where you're able to host those larger scale events or events that have either a lot of vendors or food or all of those things that maybe for the larger campus community, those are those options. And here's just a map of what those available reservable venues are. So everything in orange is a space that you have access to reserving. As you can see, there is a circle around ECS lawn because the ECS lawn is offline for the next year due to some construction over there. So unfortunately, that is not a reservable venue at this time, which is why it's really important and we really encourage you all to put in those reservations as early as you do know your event date. Just because there is not enough outdoor space for all the great events that you all want to host. And so we want to make sure you're planning ahead so that you can really lock in those dates that you want, especially if it's a fixed date or around a certain time. So just some recommendations on that and making sure you get those reservations in early. So when you want to reserve a space, you will, of course, submit an event request on Titan Link. You're going to be creating that event. From there, when you submit the form, it's going to funnel in the reservations to whoever is going to be approving that. So our office, Student Life and Leadership, it directly supports the outdoor spaces and classroom spaces. But those classroom spaces ultimately are approved by scheduling, but we facilitate that process. Athletic spaces are reserved through Titan Link, of course, but that final stamp of approval does come, and that approval to use that space on that time frame comes from athletics. And then, of course, there's a lot of reservations for folks that want to have stuff in the Titan Student Union or at Becker Amphitheater, and all of that is managed by the University Conference Center. So again, all of those spaces can be reserved through Titan Link, but it then funnels into different areas who oversee it. And I'll have a graphic about that in a couple slides. So when you're creating an event submission, you will be required to add all of these details. So you want to make sure you are as descriptive as possible. You will create an event on Titan Link, and then from there, you'll put in the date, time, description, location. That's your requesting that location. And then the important thing with the event description is you want to be as specific as possible. So as detailed as you all are, it allows us to have the information that we need to approve your event without as much back and forth. So when you share, we have activities on the lawn, we're going to want to know what those activities are so we can direct you and share what additional approvals may be needed. So if it's a vendor, you may need some additional approvals. If it's physical, if it's a field day, you may have some additional guidelines that we want to recommend and that we're going to require of you. So depending on what you share, if there's not enough information, we'll likely have to send it back or ask you additional questions, and that just kind of delays the process. So you want to make sure that your event description is as detailed as possible, but also as you answer those additional questions when it's asking about food and catering and vendors, you want to make sure you're also creating or sharing the descriptors in there of what type of food, the vendors that you're planning on working with, and et cetera, because that allows us, again, to have enough information so that we can appropriately get you connected to other campus partners who may need to approve other things. So the one thing that's important to note is be as descriptive as possible, as detailed as possible, and making sure that you're talking about all the elements of your event and sharing those in the event submission. So when it comes to planning your event, we just want to share some additional information on understanding organizational processes. So we know from your side, when you're submitting on Titan Link, it all looks the same, which is helpful for you because it's one place that you go to when you're trying to request a space and request a venue. That being said, once you press submit, it is redirected to different professional staff depending on which department does directly oversee that area. So here's kind of just an overview of when we get the event submission here, if some of them go to us, so Student Life and Leadership, and that'll include the outdoor spaces, so quads, lawns, Titan Walk, etc. That is space that is directly overseen by our office. We approve it. We kind of can give that stamp of approval and confirm that reservation. Classrooms, Student Life and Leadership facilitates that process. So we work with scheduling, but ultimately scheduling is the one that gives that approval. And then with athletic spaces, so the intramural fields, and any other spaces, the kinesiology classrooms, those types of things are approved ultimately by athletics and scheduling with the classroom. So it's really important, specifically if you're asking for those two types of spaces, there can be a delay because sometimes we're waiting for approval from other campus partners. And so you want to make sure to give yourself enough time to put in those reservations before your event date and allow for those approvals. So those are the three that kind of fall under Student Life and Leadership. The University Conference Center, so UCC, oversees the Titan Student Union, so the pavilions and all the other meeting rooms, as well as the Becker Amphitheater. That's the only outdoor space that they would oversee and provide those approvals for. And lastly is our housing spaces. So that can include any of the meeting rooms or the Laurel MPR, which is a larger event planning space or a larger event space that you can reserve in housing. So that's kind of just, again, everything is in the orange. When you all submit, it's one form, which is really helpful and convenient. And then from there, it's funneled into the different departments who manage each area. So for the spaces that are overseen by Student Life and Leadership, this is kind of the process depending on your event. So the more complex your event is, the more factors, the more vendors it has, the more approvals that are going to be needed. So everything is under, again, Titan Link event submission. From there, we review all of those that are in spaces managed by our office. So those classrooms, those outdoor spaces, and those athletic spaces. If it's something that's a meeting or something that doesn't require any additional approval, we will get to you within 7 business days, and you'll have kind of that approval for that classroom or other space within that timeline. The one thing to know about those classroom reservations is you cannot put those in until the start of the semester. Because we work with scheduling and because they have to wait to finalize class schedules, they won't approve those until the beginning of the semester. So if you're looking to put in those early, we would recommend that you hold off just because those submissions would be denied until the start of the semester. So we want to create less work for you all and putting those in right now. Anything that's for a classroom, you can hold on to and wait and submit those at the start of the semester. For other things, so for kind of those events that may take more time, the first thing that we're going to do is have a consultation meeting with you, with the event planner. So the event planner will submit the Titan Link submission. If we see that there's food and tabling and vendors, we're going to call you in and just have a conversation about what your event's going to include, what those different elements are, and kind of share what the approval process will be for that event. From there, once those action items are approved, your event or completed, your event may be approved. There is a third set of events, which are kind of those larger scale events that are in the quad that have a bunch of vendors and a bunch of food and kind of have tick a lot of boxes of additional elements. Those will also require a CAC meeting, attending a CAC meeting, which is our campus activities committee. And that's just a space where campus partners kind of come together and provide that guidance on your event approval. And then once all those action items are completed, you get that final stamp of approval from Student Life and Leadership. So again, the more elements that you have to your event, the more time you want to give yourself, because additional steps in approval will be required for your event to be approved. And as I shared, as a reminder, this process is not a one-size-fits-all. So give yourself plenty of time to ensure your event is successful and that you're able to get all those approvals and all those action items completed before your event date, or that week before, whatever that deadline is shared. Usually it's about a week to 2 weeks before your event date. If there's a bunch of stuff, we'll check in, but all of those things should be kind of completed at least a week before your event so that we can give you all enough time to promote your event and give that approval. So I mentioned CAC meeting. This is our campus activities committee, and this is really a space where we bring campus partners to you. So the Office of Student Life and Leadership partners with various campus departments, and this includes risk management, environmental health and safety, and they provide support with logistics, budgeting, just overall event planning. If it's a large scale event that your org may be required to attend a CAC meeting, and this is just allowing an opportunity for those campus partners, for you to have that face time with those campus partners, for them to ask you questions, for them to answer your questions, and making sure that you understand what approvals are needed so that your event can take place and you can kind of complete those action items. And so what your role is during that time, so if you're the event planner or the student org that's hosting the event, you're going to be given a 20 to 30-minute time slot. The CAC meeting is always on Zoom every 2 weeks, and you're going to come prepared. You're going to talk about your event. You're going to share a presentation on the logistics. You're going to share what vendors were going to be there, what you're planning, what things are still pending. And it's by this time, it should just be a check-in with these campus partners. We're kind of reiterating what vendors you have, what approvals you still need, and it's really just an opportunity to check in. We do expect that you all kind of show up prepared. We provide a template on what that presentation should look like, but really all these partners are here to support you through your event planning and making sure that you fully understand the process. So it's really just a helpful way to kind of bring everyone to you. And Student Life and Leadership, our role is really to serve as a liaison between you, the students, and these campus partners. So we're happy to support your vision. We're happy to kind of share with you what that, it's our role to help you navigate the campus process, right? So there's so many resources available. And really, I think Student Life specifically, we directly approved the space reservations and the amplified sound and a few other little things here and there, but most of these approvals are not housed under our office. So we're really here to serve as a liaison and support you when working with campus partners. And then just some of those things that kind of come up, and there's so many resources, so we can kind of continue that when your event planning does come, but just some things to kind of know are if there's events that are physical in nature, whether it's a field day or you have some activities, then we will encourage you and we'll work with risk management to make sure that you have folks complete the release of liability. So that's something that your org may be required to do. There's also a lot of questions about food and catering options. And so we just wanted to share a list of approved caterers, but also really highlighting also food truck and catering. OC Choice Express is also an additional catering option. Big things that most student orgs want to work with are a food truck, which is pretty easy because they kind of do all the work and they're already approved by campus, and you would submit that request a food truck form to kind of get that process going. In the event, or if there's circumstances where you may not have as much funding, but you still want to provide some food, our on-campus caterer Chartwells does offer and has given us a certain amount of money that we are able to give out to student orgs. So it's an opportunity for you to get some catering, free catering covered by our campus caterer, where you can have either each student org can request one event each semester up to a certain amount. So we definitely encourage you all to take advantage of this form and to utilize that funds because it's available to you. So thank you to our campus caterers for doing that. And we really just want to make sure and ensure that you all know that that's a resource. That's all for our time on event planning, but definitely reach out to Student Life and Leadership if you have any additional questions or want to talk a little bit further about the event planning process. Thank you.